Rock climbing, and bouldering in particular, is a growing sport around the world. Some climbers choose to test themselves against others in competition climbing, a sport held on artificial walls with custom-built routes. A top few competitive climbers qualify to represent their countries in the World Cup competitions. Last year, Tiffany Melius represented Australia in the Bouldering World Cups in Hamilton, Ontario, and Vail, Colorado. Please welcome Tiffany.
Who here says things like, I'm not good enough, I'm too old, I could never do that? Well, how many of you say, I have a dream, but it's never going to be realized. I'm not going to live up to my potential. Are you too busy, too tired, too weak, or too injured? Well, I say to you now, if you want to achieve greatness, stop asking for permission. Greatness means different things to different people, as we've seen here tonight. And to achieve it, you have to stop waiting for the perfect moment, for the best coach to come along, or for other people to believe in you. You have to stop holding yourself back and being your own worst enemy, and believe that it's okay for you to achieve and that you have the means to do it. In Lean In, Sheryl Sandberg quotes Peggy McIntosh on the imposter syndrome. Many people feel fraudulent when they are praised for their accomplishments. Instead of feeling worthy of recognition, they feel undeserving and guilty, as if a mistake has been made. Despite being high achievers, they can't seem to shake the sense that it is only a matter of time until they are found out for who they really are, imposters with limited skills or abilities. So the imposter syndrome found me in 2004 at the age of 19, after my first international competition, the Asian Extreme Games in Kuala Lumpur. I had built up my confidence through years of general training, months of specific training, and I was in the best shape of my life. I was a real contender for first place, and I ended up in 8th. I was devastated. I had tried, I had given it my all. I had risked my self-confidence on a belief that I could win, and I didn't even make the podium. I didn't quit climbing, but it had lost a lot of its fun for me. Even when I did well, I didn't feel like I deserved it because I had blown it in Kuala Lumpur. I refocused myself into organising competitions, and in 2006 I left Australia. I spent the next 4 years travelling to over 30 countries, climbing where there was climbing, living in Japan and the UK, and eventually settling in Vancouver. In England, I had started competing again after a 3-year break. Some of my friends there competed up on the World Cup circuit, but I never saw myself as one of them. They were in a different league. I didn't think it was even possible to aspire to be like them. I thought I was over the hill at 25. Maybe because of this lack of pressure, I remembered how much I enjoyed competing. When I came to Canada in 2010, I was out of shape and ready for a new life. I trained hard, trying to recapture the strength and self-confidence of my youth. I surprised myself by placing in a couple of competitions and even winning the Western Canada Regionals that year. My self-confidence was slowly coming back. I was competing more often, and I was feeling like I had paid whatever penance I had accrued and finally achieving what I earned. But along with regained self-confidence came the pressure that I put on myself to perform. And then in my next competition, I dislocated my ankle, and so dislocated any plans I had as well. A few months later, the first Canadian World Cup was held in Canmore. I was injured, so I didn't compete, but my new Canadian boyfriend was setting routes, so I went out to spectate. I saw some of my friends and peers competing, and it occurred to me for the first time that maybe I could still do this international competition thing. I had thought that my international competition experiences were done, that I had chosen travel over high-level competition. Most climbers in the World Cups are in their early 20s, and I would be 28. But then there were a few competitors in their 30s and 40s that gave me hope, like my friend Diane from the UK. I seriously considered the implications. I had done this before, the time, money, and energy this would require. I decided to believe that I was good enough, put my pride on the line, and go for it. In October 2011, I applied for the Australian national team to represent my home country in the 2012 World Cups in Canada and the USA. I didn't fully believe that I deserved it or was good enough, but I thought I would leave that up to Sport Climbing Australia to decide. If I really did want to prove that representing Australia once wasn't a fluke, it was now or never. While I was waiting for a reply, I went on a climbing trip to Bishop, California. I fell off the last move of a boulder problem, missing my bouldering pad by just a few inches and fracturing my heel bone. I had surgery to insert pins and plates, and I couldn't weight the foot for 9 weeks or over 2 months. Rehabilitation was slow and frustrating, and again, I thought I had reached the end of serious competition climbing for Tiffany Melius. But when I started competing again a year later, I had no expectations. I was genuinely excited just to make finals in any given competition. I worked diligently on the mental aspects of my competition climbing with a huge focus on having fun. When I came second at the Western Canada Regionals in March 2013, I convinced myself once more to try to do a World Cup for Australia. After reapplying for the Australian team and waiting 19 agonizing days for a reply, I finally heard that I had been accepted for both North American World Cups. I literally cried with joy that I had been deemed worthy. Almost 10 years after my first international competition, I did my second. When I competed in my first World Cup on the 1st of June 2013, I was absolutely stoked. I had made it. I was competing with the best in the world, and nobody could take that away from me. I had earned my place here. Yet, through all this, I still held on to my self-doubt. In the warm-up area, before going out to compete, I talked myself down, discussing the reasons that I wasn't in top form or going to do particularly well. In the words of the Canadian team's Stacey Weldon, well, someone is being a Negasaurus Rex. I was basically buffering myself against the disappointment of failing again. I kept trying to remind myself that getting there was the achievement and the competition was the easy part. I was not a medal contender here, so all I had to do was enjoy the experience. In the end, not only did I compete, but I also made it through to the next semi-final round and ended up with a final placing of 18th in Canada. This placing also guaranteed me a spot on the Australian team for this year's North American World Cups. Thank you. And thus, I gave myself permission to be great, to succeed beyond what I thought was possible for me. This experience gave me the confidence to stand up here and tell my story, to believe that you would be interested in what I have to say. Because I had the confidence not only to try for a dream, but to exceed my own expectations of myself in the process. In the words of Jason Mraz in my now customary pre-comp song, I'm letting myself off the hook for things I've done. I let my past go past and now I'm having more fun. I'm letting go of the thoughts that do not make me strong, and I believe that this can feel the same for everyone. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. You know, the one thing that struck me, though, with your injury really was, did that change a perspective with you? I mean, in terms of moving forward, and really, what was the hardest thing to deal with that injury?
So at the time when I was injured, I was actually working for the Rick Hansen Institute, which is obviously most people here probably know Rick Hansen works with people with spinal cord injuries. And so I wasn't walking for more than 2 months. I wasn't even allowed to weight my foot at all. And I kept feeling like I'm never going to walk again, which obviously isn't true because bones heal and surgeons these days are fantastic. But I just kept thinking I'm never going to walk again, and then having to go to work and seeing people with spinal cord injuries and knowing that, well, actually they were never going to walk again. So that was a really hard thing for me to deal with, knowing that there were people in way worse situations than me, but I still felt really sorry for myself. And the other thing that really changed, and I just touched on it in my talk, was the change in perspective, because I could no longer climb hard and climb strong, I had to remember why I was climbing. I had to remember why I enjoyed it and what was fun about it. And it has served me so well. I really believe that my competition climbing has reached another level because I've remembered how to have fun while competing. And it's not all about winning, you know, as we've heard other people say. It's not all about winning. It's not all about doing well. And if you're having fun, you're actually more likely to do well. So.
Thank you. Spot on.